And life is not a bowl of cherries. Today, we're going to talk about the fact that we become political peasants under the Biden regime, who has destroyed 250 years of relative freedom. Now, you say you know it all. I don't have to listen. Well, that's true. You know everything. So why are you listening to me? But if you care to comment and have a discussion about this matter, drawing upon both politics and religion, I'll be glad to talk with you. In fact, it's not going to be religion, it's going to be politics and literature. And I'm going to refer to a book called The Cherry Orchard by one of the great Russian playwrights, Anton Chekhov. The Cherry Orchard. I read that in high school, then in college. I didn't truly understand it. But The Cherry Orchard is a very important play for America today. Anton Chekhov was probably the greatest Russian playwright, and it opened at the Moscow Art Theater on the 17th of January, 1904. It was allegedly supposed to be a comedy, and it has some farce in it, obviously, right? But Stanislavski insisted on directing the play as a tragedy, as you will soon see. So it has a dual nature, like almost everything on earth. As you well know, there's no purity in feeling or in thought. Everything is yin and yang. Everything is happy and sad. Everything is pleasure and pain. Virtually everything we do in our life. All adults know this. Children don't know that. But the play The Cherry Orchard concerns an aristocratic Russian woman and her family as they return to their family estate, which happens to contain a very large and well-respected cherry orchard. And they go there just before it is auctioned off to pay the mortgage because they can no longer afford this estate, which has been in the family for generations. Now, while the family is presented with options to save the estate, the family is powerless. They do nothing. They're just paralyzed. They don't know how to act. And the play ends with the sale of the estate to the son of a former serf. And so the family that owned this for generations leaves to the sound of the cherry orchard being cut down. Think about this. So the theme of cultural futility, both the futile attempt of the aristocracy to maintain its status and of the bourgeoisie to find meaning in its newfound materialism, they're both presented here, right? And the play, although done in 1904 and reflects the socioeconomic forces at work in Russia at the turn of the 20th century before the Bolshevik Revolution, including the rise of the middle class after the abolition of serfdom in the mid-19th century and the sinking of the aristocracy, the play actually reflects forces at work around the globe, not only in that period, but today in America and the West. That is why I call today's show Political Peasants, because we are living under the tyranny of the Biden family or the Biden crime family, the Biden regime, or the Biden presidency, depending upon your perspective, who has rendered us all to be political peasants. They put a guy like Steve Bannon, a Navy veteran and an all-around good, just a good man, a patriot, in prison for contempt of Congress. At the same time, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland himself, is refusing to acknowledge such a subpoena from Congress. And of course, nothing's happened to him. You get it? So here we are living in a political peasantry. We are all peasants. We have no power. We may think we have power. Again, we're being deluded into think that come November, we're going to exert our power. For once every 4 years, we rise up from the tyranny that this nation is basically built upon. And once every few years, we get to exert our vote as though it still matters. Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm certainly going to vote for Trump. I don't want to be ambiguous about that. But at the end of the day, even if he wins, which I hope he does, you can expect what's going on in France today to happen here. The Soros and others who have funded the left in America and around the world are rioting all over France because the, quote, extreme right, the ultra right, has won in France. Have you ever heard the words ultra left about Joe Biden. Have you ever once heard anyone in the media refer to him as ultra left, left wing extremist, socialist? Rarely. But whenever anyone stands up to the tyranny of the Biden machine, they're ultra right. They're MAGA right, as though we're animals. We're not human beings. We have no right to an opinion. We have no right to a vote, according to the communists on the left. And this is what makes for revolutions. At a certain point, there's no use talking to each other. It just has to come to a civil war, which unfortunately could happen. Remember my book from 2016, Stop the Coming Civil War? It was not a joke then, and it's less of a joke right now. And so there could be a civil war when Trump wins, assuming that they don't do something dire to him, such as assassinate him in prison or elsewhere, which I wouldn't put past the vermin on the left, incidentally. So, in addition to talking about these tragic situations, I want to go back in history again, because history is a great teacher, and talk about how tyrants rise just for a little bit from my great book, The Savage Republic, which was written specifically for the coming election to change one vote in your family. Maybe you have a so called progressive daughter who's home for the summer. Maybe you can take the book out and just maybe she'll listen to something. But I was talking about the rise of Hitler, and I was referring again to, I know everything's Hitler, but listen carefully. It's a book about Hitler called Hitler, the Memoir of the Nazi Insider, who turned against the Fuhrer, by a man you never heard of named Ernst Hanfstaengl. And someone named Alan Bullock wrote Hitler, A Study in Tyranny. Okay, these are great books which provide a credible picture of Hitler as a man, which you should study in some detail by listening to me for the next few minutes. I actually don't remember where I picked up the Hanfstaengl book. The dust jacket was torn. It was published by a small publisher named Arcade Publishing in 2011. It cost 30 shillings at the time. It was a British publication. A note fell out of it that said, I think you would enjoy this, doctor. It probably sent to me by a listener. And his name is Hanfstaengl, Hanfstaengl. You don't know the man. Nobody does. So it was published by an unknown publisher named Arcade Publishing in 2011. It cost 30 shillings at the time, as I said. And it's about Hitler's rise to power from before the abortive Munich Putsch of 1923 to his final triumph when he became chancellor, the years when the seeds of his later deterioration began. I emphasize his later deterioration. By the way, you should study Hitler in his last years: the shaking hand, the Parkinsonian tremor, the delusions of grandeur, the madness, the not listening to anybody, and of course, the rest is history. To this, the author, Dr. Hans von Stagel, is a witness of the utmost importance, because not only were his relations with Hitler close until Hitler came to power, they knew each other very well, but after that, he was still the Nazi Party's foreign press chief until his escape to Switzerland in 1937. This is an important book that I refer to in my great book, A Savage Republic, which maybe in 50 years people will say, why didn't we listen to this man? Assuming there are still books that are permitted in America at that time. So not only did the author of that book about Hitler talk about what was going on and what he saw was going to happen to Germany and the world, but he backed his observations with the judgment of an educated man of the world. You see, the author had come to know Hitler when Hitler was a minor provincial political agitator, a frustrated ex-serviceman. I like the choice of the words, okay? When Hitler was a minor provincial political agitator. And here's what he wrote. Awkward in a blue serge suit, he looked like a suburban hairdresser on his day off. His chief claim to notice was his golden voice and his transcendent powers as an orator on the platform of one of his party meetings. Even then, he was so little regarded that the sparse reports of the press did not even spell his name right. Now, think about that. How did an obscure loser like Hitler become so powerful so fast? and almost destroy the entire world. It's an amazing story about the emergence of this marginal figure, Hitler, at a time when Germany was being torn apart by a battle between the left, meaning the socialists, and the right, meaning the nationalists. Does it sound familiar? What I took away from this book was that we are witnesses to history which is reemerging in America along the same lines. This is all found in a savage republic. Again, maybe we can save the republic with one election. I don't know. But in our case, I write, the internationalists or socialists are the ones who stand for nothing except the destruction of everything about America. They have not yet broken the crosses off the war memorials and the memorial cemeteries, as I predicted they would do 30 years ago. But trust me, if they're not stopped, they will say that the crosses in our military cemeteries offend Muslims and atheists, and they demand that the crosses be snapped off the war memorials, off the graves. You know what's going to happen when they cross that line? You'll see what will happen. And the very same vermin, the ACLU, sought to give each border jumper, each illegal alien, $450,000, right? $450,000 to reward them for having snuck into America. The ACLU, by the way, is the head of the snake. And it has everything to do with Hitler. It has everything to do with the demise of Western civilization. It has everything to do with the fact that we have all become political peasants under this regime. So we have shallow monsters of human beings in the media, like Anderson Cooper, who pretend that they are thoughtful, or Jake Tapper, who puts on clear glasses that make him look intellectual in his mind. And all they show are their hatred for this nation and everything it stands for. Because if we had a legitimate media, this would not be happening. The end of Western civilization, I write, is no longer a vision for enemies within and without. It is operational. They are doing it. The players are well known, filled with contempt for success and tradition, pandering to the manufactured cry of diversity in order to divide this once great nation. But what is their real goal? Is it equality? Is it equity? No. We have that. Those who can do, those who have anything to offer, succeed. But the left wants to consolidate power forever in their corrupt oligarchy. And so the aging president, Joseph Biden, became their front man. And although the world has seen this, those of us who could see things clearly have been saying this and warning the country and the world that we do have a senile president who's not all there. I wrote about him called The King Has No Brain 2 years ago. I did a little show on it. It could be a laughing matter if we were not on the verge of World War III because of the psychotics around this administration, the college girls, the hysterical LGBTQ maniacs who see things only through the narrow prism of their movement of LGBTQ. What's good for LGBTQ is good for the world. So they think. They can't think beyond their impulses, by and large. And so I think I've concluded what I wanted to say today. We've talked about cherries, The Cherry Orchard by Chekhov. We've talked about the fact that we have all become political peasants under Joey Biden. And I don't think there's anything more I need to say. I don't have to go on for an hour to appease you and to appeal to you. I've given you a nice set of thoughts for you to think amongst yourselves. It's 15 minutes of new thoughts, original thoughts. You know, I want to say one thing about originality. There is no originality in the conservative media, none. Most of them, even the popular ones, are like traffic lights: red light, yellow light, green light. There's zero creativity, zero originality. I am an artist and a commentator who has always attempted to bring originality to my broadcast, which is what keeps me going, by the way. And so I hope you've enjoyed my discussion of cherries, the cherry orchard, and the political tyranny that we are living in, where we have all become political peasants. And that's all I have to say to you today on Twitter and on YouTube. If you care to comment by hitting the bell or the notification button or the like button, that's great. I'll try to do a few others this week. It's a long week coming up with the so-called July 4th holiday. I would say 9 out of 10 American people do not even know what it celebrates at all. All they do is they get to get drunk, eat bad hot dogs, build up their colon cancer index, and make a lot of noise over the weekend. In the name of what? Do they even know what they're celebrating? I kind of doubt it. And so I will hide as much as I can from the noise of the fireworks in hidden locations, away from them as far as I can get. But I will be here with you, God willing, again, a few times this week. And until that time, happy trails to you from Michael Savage, the author of Borders, Language, Culture, the Savage Nation.